G'day everyone, my name's Casey Ellis. I'm the founder, chairman and CTO of Bugcrowd, and welcome to today's Security Flash. Adam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, so my name's Adam. I also go under Evil Damon, and I'm an ASE at Bugcrowd.
Cool, thank you, sir. So yeah, we're actually recording this one kind of late in the evening Australian time, and it's because there's a lot going on. And we wanted to be able to share this stuff, get it out to customers and to the general market quickly to give them a heads up. Adam, what's the bug that we're talking about today?
So this one's a very interesting one. It's with Confluence. This is an Atlassian project. You can find it on pretty much every major corporate network. The idea of it is that it's a collaboration platform. It's used mainly for things like corporate wikis. You can find it online most of the time. But their big bread and butter right now is having it installed, and that's where this is vulnerable on servers that are installed on your network rather than hosted in their cloud product. Basically, what this can do for you is it can just allow RC on any network that has this accessible. You have to have it configured in a specific way, but from what we found, that it's actually a lot more likely to be vulnerable.
Right.
You're going to find it
when you say, just to pause you there, when you say RCE, for the listeners, what is that? What does that mean?
So that's remote code execution. What that means is a malicious attacker is able to execute code on your system, and that is happening without your knowledge in this case. Right. It's able to happen from a user that has no previous access, so anyone in the world can do it from the comfort of their own desk.
Got it. Yeah, and that I guess that leads me to my second kind of plan question. You all on the Bugcrowd triage and AppSec engineering team went from normal levels of doing your thing to incredibly busy about 2 days ago. Do you want to explain kind of what happened there?
Yeah, so we had a mild house is on fire, the fire is on fire situation. Basically, what ended up happening was this vulnerability was found out quite a while ago in vulnerability times. This was found on the 25th, or a little bit earlier than that, and then a patch was released.
25th of August, yeah?
Yeah, so 25th of August.
Yep.
The problem is it became publicly exploitable on the 31st. People found the first public exploit posted on Twitter, and of course, the snowball effect occurred immediately after that. And as I alluded to a little bit earlier, everyone and their mother has this installed on their servers at the moment.
It's very common software in terms of Confluence, you mean?
Yeah, we've already had over 130 submissions. It's on 50 different programs, every industry, every organization. But the good part here is there's been about maybe 25, 30 submissions that have already been paid out just right now. And what that means is these are being fixed as well.
Yeah.
So it isn't immediately hard to fix. There's a patch available. It's really easy to go through. So
really the crowd's coming in and basically identifying where these issues are, demonstrating the fact that, yeah, that instance of Confluence is still vulnerable, submitting the issue, and then the customer, as is the plan, is actually taking that information and using it to reduce risk. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so that's about right. What's happening here is people are seeing that this is happening. Exploitation is very easy. We saw already on that first day max exploitation. There were pretty much anyone who had a SOC was freaking out, wondering, oh, why are all the lights on?
What the heck's going on? Yeah. Why is everyone so interested in my Confluence instance all of a sudden? It's like, oh, okay, that's why.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Everyone was going, oh, my house is on fire as well.
So for sure. I guess just on that real quick, again, kind of, I think unpacking a little bit of what's going on. My understanding and what you and I talked about, the CVE, so the vulnerability, the fact that the software was vulnerable, that was announced and basically published through the CVE process on the 25th of August. Between then and the 31st of August, what happened was someone actually basically built an exploit to take advantage of that vulnerability. And I think the difference between those two things is one that's kind of intuitive when you start to look at it. You're like, oh, of course, you've got to find a way to actually use the vulnerability. It's not enough for it to just be there, but there's additional work that comes into that. My understanding is when things really started ramping up for you all on the 31st. That was because the exploit that was developed, it was published publicly. It became very widely, it basically reduced the cost of access for anyone to use it at that point in time. Instead of having to build an exploit, you could just use what someone else had already built.
Yeah, so that's actually what happened here. In fact, on the 25th, I already heard of people reverse engineering the patch. So that was looking at how they were patching that system, going, okay, what are they doing here different compared to what already exists, and figuring out what was the difference between those two, and then trying to find the exploit that way.
Yeah.
And that was happening on the day of release. So there was a bit of exploitation. I'm pretty sure a couple of people that we know have already found exploits before it was public.
Yeah. I think the interesting call out to make there is that, all of a sudden you've got very easy access to demonstrating a proof of concept if you're a white hat, right? But if you're malicious, obviously that gives them that same level of ease of access. But kind of what you're saying is that it wasn't just that publishing of the vulnerability that enabled that; it was actually happening beforehand as well. And if we saw that on the hunter, like the helpful hacker side of things, it's fairly safe to assume that the bad guys were probably doing it too.
That's exactly it. Because we know for a fact that these bad guys are going to have a look and use the same exploits that we are. This has already been proven through ransomware heavily. If we even think back to some very fun incident, Blue Keep was a fun one a while back. And the SMB exploit that the name passes me at this moment. That was released by the NSA on accident.
The last time you and I were talking, it was about Print Nightmare, and I think one of the things that we kind of expected was for that to show up in ransomware, and that happened about 2 weeks later. So, yeah, similar kind of example there, I think.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And this isn't going to go away. The big thing is Confluence is everywhere and doesn't always have to be in a bug bounty program. It isn't always going to be reported by the right people either.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be one of those things where if you get a pen test report from someone and they do a test internally, they're going to find this most likely. Yeah. These boxes are usually not the most well kept.
Yeah, because it's a wiki. Like you update your documentation. It's one of those things that's easier to deprioritize, I guess, in terms of patching. I guess getting to that, it's preempting next question a little bit. Like for enterprises that have Confluence, or I think even at this point, especially for the ones that think they might have Confluence but they're not quite sure, what's your advice to them at this point?
First off, probably spend some money on asset detection and management. You probably want to know what's on your network ahead of time before, something like this happens and you're trying to scramble to figure out if you're using this version or another version.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a patch that's publicly available. You can download it tomorrow. It's right there. You can download it even right now if you're on call and currently scrambling to figure out what's going on.
Yep.
The big thing, though, is you can't just block this with a firewall. You'll find that this triggers on multiple pages. I've seen exploitation through all sorts of weird methods.
Okay.
And you can see it happen quite a bit on systems where there's different pages available. So the big one was I saw a hunter play around with some interesting stuff and find a vulnerability that no one else did because it was blocked for everyone else.
Right. So, I mean, to that point, we will post remediation. We're actually planning on sending out remediation advice and steps that people can take to be able to, pretty much follow. Like Atlassian's published a lot of this stuff, but for the sake of getting it all into the one place, we'll make that available alongside the timeline and all that kind of stuff. And this video, obviously. But yeah, I mean, getting into that from a hunter standpoint, it seems like every man and their dog and every person and their pet really at this point in time is out there scanning the internet looking for this thing. Like, what's your advice to bug hunters at this point in time?
Honestly, start looking around at weird spots. I've seen some weird stuff recently, and I know for a fact there's some fun places that you won't expect Confluence to be hiding, especially down weird directory traversal paths. The other one is try and look at how you're exploiting it as well. There are multiple exploit ways, quite a few that are public on Twitter that just people haven't played around with yet. And I think There's a couple in there that people are going to spot and realize how easily exploitable this still is. And as a bug hunter, I would also keep this stashed away for the next time you're doing a test on an internal. You'll find something for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I guess on that as well, in terms of, because obviously this has been fairly, in terms of what we've seen, and then in terms of the feedback that we've had from customers that have been affected, it's been kind of a 0 to 100 thing. It went from not being that much of a concern to, okay, we've got to deal with this right now over a very short space of time. From a bug hunter standpoint, in terms of being able to demonstrate risk and make sure that people are aware of a problem, but doing that in a way that minimizes the impact. Like, do you have any thoughts on how best to do that with this particular issue?
Well, you can find ways to exploit this that don't cause RC. There are vulnerabilities that allow you to, for example, evaluate code, such as timesing two numbers together. It still shows the execution of code, but it isn't actually causing impact against a customer, for example.
It's not introducing foreign code to the system necessarily at that point.
And they're not going to have to spend the next 2 months in trying to get some IR going through there.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. All right, mate. We'll wrap it up there. Really appreciate your time. And thank you for letting me pull you away from dinner and the evening stuff to put this down on tape. Appreciate the burn down as well, and frankly all of the work that you and the others in the ASC team have done to stay on top of it, make sure our customers are getting this information in a timely way, making sure the reporters are getting the right kind of feedback and staying informed. I know it's been a big couple of days for you, and I really appreciate it, so thank you.
Of course, never an issue.
Cheers. Thanks all. That's the security flash for the day. I think we're going to affectionately dub this bug Conflu, because I've been waiting to do that for a long time. We'll see if that catches on. But yeah, any other questions? If this raises anything, or if there's assistance Bugcrowd can provide with asset management, attack surface discovery, all those different things that Adam mentioned as ways to find where you might have Confluence that you don't currently know, give us a call and we'll help you out. Cheers.